2. Princess.
What were you reading, anyway?
Twilight asked in amusement, placing the book back on the shelf while her daughter had been deposited on her back.
It must have been interesting if it kept you glued to the book all night long. Yeah!
The filly chirped happily, doing a quick and joyful jump on Twilight's back just to convey how interesting it was, and then immediately pretended she didn't almost slip off. Twilight chuckled, examining the title on the book's spine.
So, prophetic dreaming, Yep.
Avia confirmed with a quick nod.
I almost got through it all. There's some really interesting things in there. Have you read it, Mama? I have. I believe it was some point after I first experienced Princess Luna entering my dreams, and I do recall it as a subject she herself holds some interest in.
Twilight confirmed.
So tell me, what did it teach you? Oh, all kinds of things,
Avia stated. The filly then jumped from her mother's back and landed on the ground, hopping around to face Twilight head-on.
It started by talking all about the dream realm and stuff, how someone's experience is shaped by their rampant imagination, and only lucid dreamers have any control of what they're seeing. Go on.
Twilight encouraged, laying down as she gave her eager daughter her undivided attention.
And it also said how time is all weird and stuff inside the dream realm, like you can have a dream that seems longer or shorter than you're asleep.
Avia continued, tapping her chin as she thought back to her late-night read.
And then sometimes people see important stuff, things they didn't imagine. Since time is distorted within the realm, sometimes people can have glimpses of both past and future events from inside it.
Twilight concluded for Avia.
It's extremely rare to happen, though it's more likely to transpire in someone who is powerful in the magical arts. Have you ever seen one?
Avia inquired, tilting her head inquisitively. Twilight shook her head.
No, I have not. I know Princess Celestia has, though. Really? She has.
Twilight confirmed.
When Tirek returned, she saw a vision of him stealing a pony's magic, and it all came to pass. Wow.
Avia hummed in awe.
I know that Princess Luna can control the dream realm, but the book didn't say much about her. Yes, Luna.
Twilight entered thought for a moment.
I've talked the subject over with her. It's true she can enter the dream realm and both alter the dreams of those within reach, allow them lucid dreaming, or even to talk to someone in that state. But when it comes to prophecies and visions, she's a little murky. Why? Shouldn't she be able to see them? If she was to have one herself, then yes.
Twilight responded.
But while she was alerted to Celestia's vision when it occurred, she apparently could not enter it. I guess prophetic dreaming works different from normal dreaming.
Avia frowned, tilting her head.
Different? Maybe because time is all warped or something?
Twilight chuckled, dragging Avia forward with a wing and giving her a nuzzle on the head, causing the nymph to giggle in delight.
You are a smart girl, you know that?
Avia suddenly gasped.
Oh, there's something I've been really wanting to ask you.
Before Twilight could ask her child for clarification, the young changeling shot up and buzzed into the air. She flew to the top of one of the bookshelves, grabbed a specific book, and quickly flew back down to her confused mother. Avia wasted no time in flicking through the book in search of something before giving an excited squee of victory as she deposited the open book into her mother's hooves. Twilight was almost hesitant to see what had gotten Avia so excited, but the duty of a mother is an endless one.
A bookworm?
Twilight questioned Avia with a frown, giving her a quizzical look.
Why am I looking at a picture of a bookworm? It's a dragon made from books! From books!
Avia squealed excitedly, prancing in place.
It's like you took Uncle Spike and made him awesome! Are you saying Spike isn't awesome already?
Twilight teased, getting her daughter to freeze in place.
I'm sure he won't be offended at all. No.
Avia protested, waving her hooves in some vain attempt to placate her mother.
Spike is cool, mega cool, but books!
Twilight couldn't hold in her amusement and let her laughter rip its way through the bedroom. It was at this point that Avia realized that Twilight had been pulling her leg, and she crossed her forelegs with a huff of indignation.
Oh, I'm sorry, Avia.
Twilight apologized, but could not hide the amused glint in her eyes.
You just remind me too much of a purple filly I used to know. Really?
Avia questioned.
Was she nice?
Twilight gave her daughter a bemused look before shaking her head.
She was a hooful, or so I hear. But again, why am I looking at a bookworm? We can make one!
Avia exclaimed.
Please? Avia, you know we have to be going soon.
Twilight reminded the nymph.
I don't think we have time to be playing around with new spells. Please?
Avia asked again, conjuring the puppy dog eyes.
It's still early. We have time. Pretty please?
Twilight sighed and felt she had no choice but to relent. It would have to be relatively quick, but it would prevent Avia from pouting for the entire journey to Ponyville at least.
All right. Let's see.
Twilight muttered as she stood up and began refreshing herself on what the book had to say about bookworms. She hummed and nodded as she read up on the spell, not having cast it in years, relaying what she was reading to Avia whenever the bouncing filly asked about it. It wasn't a complicated spell, more mid-level if anything, and she was always a prodigy when it came to magic if she were allowed to toot her own horn. But Twilight Sparkle would never do that. Ever. Not at all. Still, she quickly found her own time studying such things when she was Celestia's student, all rushing back to her. She had been a little older than Avia when she had approached the Princess of the Sun, who had helped her master the spell. All those lessons and study sessions flooded back, and Twilight couldn't help but smile to herself as she felt her confidence in the spell soar.
All right. I got this,
Twilight announced, Avia giving a eep of excitement.
I need a book to cast it on. Might as well use the spell book itself. Avia, get behind me.
Avia complied, scuttling over to her mother and standing in between her legs. Finding that being used as a makeshift shelter was acceptable, Twilight allowed her curved horn to light up with lavender magic before reaching out with the aura to envelop the book. The tome began to glow, and it became so bright that all the text and images became illegible as it turned into a miniature, lavender-colored star. Then, the book shifted form, twisting and contorting this way and that, before launching itself from Twilight's grasp and into the air. And then the pages expanded out, twisting into the form of a small but elongated dragon made entirely from the pages of the book. They could see the book's text running down the dragon's body like a large tattoo, the front and back covers forming the jaw, filled with jagged shards of papers that were the teeth, liable to maybe scratch a changeling's chitin or give a pony a paper cut. 2 small craters in the face formed eye sockets, and they were filled with a mote of light, each the same color of Twilight's magic.
Yeah! It worked!
Avia announced in victory, slinking forward from her mother's legs and looking up at the magic creature.
Hiya, Mr. Bookworm!
The spell looked down at Avia as the filly looked up gleefully, but beyond that, it showed little recognition to the princess's presence.
Can it hear me? It's just a book animated by magic, Avia. It's not alive,
Twilight answered.
No consciousness of its own. It's just a complete extension of my own will.
And just as she said that, of course, is when the bookworm decided to go haywire. Avia gave a shriek as the creature knocked several books off the shelf toward her, Twilight dragging her daughter back beneath her in a second. The queen raised a shield around herself and Avia as the bookworm started rushing around the room, crashing into bookshelves and making a general mess of the place. It smashed into the shield a few times, though clearly not in attack, but rather in a maddened flurry of rampant magic given no direction. Twilight released the shield, her horn glowing brighter as she concentrated. Then, in a flash and a pop, the bookworm contorted and shrank back down to the simple spellbook that it had once been. The book fell and landed on the floor with a thud. Right at the hooves of Facade, who had frozen up the moment he walked into the room. He looked down at the book and then up at his sheepish-looking wife and daughter.
Do I even want to know?
He deadpanned.
I may have been a bit rustier than I thought,
Twilight said as she stepped forward and picked up the book, placing it and the scattered tomes quickly back on their respective shelves.
I guess I forgot to give the spell a direction, so it just went haywire. Whoops.
Right, Facade muttered, looking towards Avia. Are you okay, sweetie?
That was so awesome!
Avia proclaimed, giving her parents a beaming smile.
Can I try next time? Maybe when we come back from the Summer Sun celebration, Avia,
Twilight answered, looking toward her husband.
Is the escort ready?
It is. They're waiting for us now, Facade confirmed. Some of the hive have already left. Cardus just went with his family, so we'll probably be seeing them on arrival.
Good to know,
Twilight said, picking up Avia onto her back and stepping forwards, sharing a nuzzle with her husband.
Shall we go?
The family of three exited Avia's room, closing the door behind them. They made their way through the hive, moving past many more changelings of all kinds and coloration. Blue, red, purple. Sometimes it still amazed Twilight, especially when remembering how things used to be when she was princess of the Badlands Hive. So very long ago. You okay, honey? Facade asked Twilight, looking up at the changeling queen. You seem distant.
Oh, it's nothing.
Twilight responded with a shake of her head.
Just remembering when I was young. Nothing more.
Well, you do look pretty good for a 50-year-old, Facade cheekily jabbed. Twilight shot him a smirk.
So you say, dear, but you're not so bad yourself at 42.
Avia stuck out her tongue.
Blah! You're giving each other lovey-dovey looks again. Stop!
Facade laughed. Oh, we'd better then, since we're embarrassing our daughter so much. Hives forbid she see her parents showing affection.
I can't even eat love when it's from a changeling,
Avia complained.
So what's the point? Love is more than a snack, Avia,
Twilight gently admonished.
You will understand when you're a bit older. No, I won't. You're just weird.
Both parents looked at each other and then rolled their eyes in practiced unison. Whatever Avia said, they knew she would change her tune when the teenage years came rolling about. Every parent's biggest anticipation, and yet worst nightmare, was the day their child would come home with a cult friend. Or a bear friend? Only time would tell on that front. That line of thought then led Twilight to another. Namely, what would Chrysalis have thought of Facade if she were alive? And her grandchild, if she were there with them? Twilight shook her head to rid herself of that thought. This was Avia's first summer sun celebration, and Twilight still held extremely fond memories of her own. This was going to be a fun-filled couple of days with friends and family, and there was no room for such depressing things to come creeping into her mind. Avia, for her part, was ignorant of her mother's inner ruminations. She just sat comfortably between Twilight's wings, her own fluttering in anticipation, when they finally emerged from the hive and out into the fields of Equestria. The Royal Sky carriage was already waiting for the three, with 2 guards hitched up to the front while 3 more of the blue-armored drones saluted the Queen as she approached, then taking up their positions around the carriage. One of them opened the door for the trio to get inside, and Twilight nodded a quick thank you to the drone. The family got comfortable, Avia electing to sit between Twilight's hooves while the husband and wife sat side by side for the trip to come. Once they were secured, Twilight sent a quick bit of confirmation over the hive mind. Then, silently, the carriage began to move. For several meters, the guards cantered forward, dragging their precious cargo behind them, before jumping and taking to the air. The enchanted carriage followed them up, as if it was as light as a feather, and the 3 escorts also let loose their wings and took to the skies. With them fully underway, Avia hopped up and looked eagerly out of the window, seeing the rolling plains passing them by. To see the vast green fields, the infinite expanse of the blue sky, and even the distant city of Canterlot sitting atop its mountain. All of it just added to the filly's jubilation toward the coming event. And in due course, they would be arriving at the town of Ponyville, meeting friends and family alike, all ready to behold the 1032nd Summer Sun celebration.